Good morning. In a world that has mutated into an endless stream of misleading sound bites and oversimplified 280-character tweets, today's lesson is both past and prologue. Long, long ago, our Lord commanded us to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. And this morning, we are being asked by our brilliant, bright-eyed young minister to love our enemies. Well, I've seen a thing or two in my 66 years that are causing my hackles to raise involuntarily these days. And I'm not entirely sure I'm actually feeling it. And my guess is that many of you are having a somewhat similar response, caught in a powerful, at times existential quandary incited by an incendiary combination of fear, suspicion, distrust, and anger. And I would guess that this is felt with equal intensity on either side of the divide that has split our national identity. It hasn't always been this way, or has it? Surely you and I have been incensed by complex, often contradictory internal struggles in our lives' greatest challenges. That's one of the things most basic that makes us all human. In the simplest terms, we're hearing that angel on one shoulder argue with the devil on the other. Unfortunately, some of us are faced with much more complicated issues that can consume us unmercifully, driving some to hopeless choices that may smooth the pain temporarily, but ultimately prevent us from any true healing. But for sure, there is another way. Many of us vintage triconers were fortunate to know a very kind and gentle man named Dick Nethercutt, who passed away almost 15 years ago at the age of 83. His personal story was the embodiment of love's triumph over vengeance and the healing that can come from embracing ideals of mercy and forgiveness, even under the most dire of circumstances. In 1960, while stationed as a diplomat in Hong Kong, Dick and his wife adopted a 2-year-old Russian girl they named Eugenia, or as they called her, Jaina. 10 years later, Dick was called back to Washington, D.C., but the transition to American culture was difficult for the teenager. Jaina struggled through high school and chose to go to college in Seattle, where tragically, in January of 1978, she was raped and murdered. Soon after, Dick and his wife Lorraine moved to Concord, her hometown, where they laid their daughter to rest at Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. The justice system did its job. The assailant was captured, tried, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison. Of course, all these events devastated Dick and his wife, who battled unceasing pain, anger, guilt, and depression. In a desperate effort to understand why this tragedy happened, Dick developed an overwhelming need to contact the man who murdered his daughter. He reached out to the prison chaplain in Walla Walla, Washington, who arranged a phone conversation between the two. The call lasted no more than 10 minutes, and retelling the story years later, Dick said he gleaned very little relief from the conversation, but because the only alternative was to live with unrelenting anguish, he felt just enough to want to continue the dialogue. It was awkward, frustrating, and deeply painful for both of them, but it was the beginning of what became a long process for Dick to heal himself, offer a gift of loving significance to his daughter's short life, and bring peace and healing grace to others, including criminals, through communication, understanding, and forgiveness. After years of trying, Dick never really found the solace he sought from talking to Jana's killer. But the effort led him to a life of great purpose and kinship with other trauma survivors seeking relief through compassionate relationships. Dick's legacy includes many years of impassioned, direct participation in the Alternatives to Violence program, Gates Unbarred, and the Concord Prison Outreach, and he was in a large way the inspiration that led members of this church to help found the groundbreaking, very successful Communities for Restorative Justice. All these programs, and of course so many more, have benefited from the generous giving of your treasure, which can best be recognized with a reprise of this morning's first reading from Luke. If you lend to those from whom you expect to receive payment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. Instead, love your enemies, do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, for he himself is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. With Dick's merciful legacy in mind, and the God-given wisdom of our brilliant, bright-eyed young minister's words ringing in our ears, I ask that this morning's offering be given with gracious compassion and thus received with love and gratitude.